And that's what we're doing for April Fools this year.
Wait, so let me get this straight. You want us to do a supposed collab review where like the title and the thumbnail are for the new Death Grips record, Jenny Death, but in reality we're just gonna sit down and talk about the new Soulja Boy album?
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk it up as like a classic. Say Kendrick Lamar's got nothing on it. It'll be awesome.
I mean, this is all well and good, but you want this to go on my channel?
Oh, hell yeah. No way I'm letting the entirety of MU jump down my throat for this. John? John? Buddy? Dang it. Well, you can kiss that Flow Rider collab review goodbye, mister.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Spinner Reviews, and today I'm going to be talking about the new album from James Bay called Chaos and the Calm. Listen, America, allow me to reiterate a point I made in my KDB review from a while ago. Over the last year or so, we've been on the losing end of the musical revolution. The only real evidence you need at the moment is by looking at what's number 2 on each of the respective singles charts. Across the pond, it's James Bay's Hold Back the River, while over here, we got Sugar by the Adam Levine Experience. Need I say more? For those who don't know, James Bay is a British singer-songwriter who's been absolutely blowing up in the UK over the last year or so, and absolutely marginally successful over here. I first got into him when I saw his Let It Go EP for $1 at the local record store. I picked it up on a whim and instantly loved it. Since then, I saw him at an acoustic show at a college venue last October, where I actually managed to get an interview with him on this channel that I highly recommend checking out, linked here and in the description. Around that time, he released Hold Back the River, the lead single and title track from his third EP, which would gradually build him more and more hype over the months they came out. And now, a few months later, we have his debut full-length called Chaos and the Calm, comprised half of songs originally written for those first 2 EPs, and half new songs. And I have to say, everything on this album just works for me, and it makes for easily one of my favorite albums of 2015 so far. Now, James doesn't seem to be going for this big, running, grand narrative concept, which is fair to assume since these songs were written over the course of about 2 years. However, there are definitely some running themes tying these songs together. A lot of this album basically deals with the idea of being honest with yourself and the other person when you're in a rocky or less than functional relationship. A perfect example of this is the second biggest single here, Let It Go, which really shows James' sentimental singer-songwriter side at its best, though, ironically enough, through a song about not following your emotions. Now, not to say that all breakup songs that, throw these bitter insults or act all melodramatic and borderline apocalyptic about it are bad, necessarily, but I always love when one comes around that's just mature, In a way, I'm reminded of the last Beck, Phanogram, and Jimmy World albums, which I can give similar compliments to. And of course, with that kind of realistic perspective, there's a good amount of emotional contradictions on this album, which I'm pretty sure were intentional. For example, right between Let It Go and the very similarly themed Best Fake Smile, you've got the fantastic If You Ever Want to Be in Love, which essentially has the exact opposite message as he's reconnecting with this girl he broke up with a while ago, and has serious thoughts about wanting to get back together. Again, I feel like James knows and plays up how much this conflicts with what he said before, and musically the song kind of has this classic piano rock feel to it. Like, I can picture, say, Billy Joel having a big hit with this maybe 35 years ago or so. Meanwhile, Craving starts off the album with definitely one of the more driving rock moments, with the guitars and sort of propulsive snare part that reminds me kinda of some of the best moments on that last Ryan Adams album, and it really complements that longing for emotional resolution that characterizes a lot of the album that follows. Now, like I hinted at, there are two songs here originally from his first EP, The Dark of the Morning, which was mostly a solo acoustic work, but now Move Together and especially When We Were on Fire are charged with this full band instrumentation that turns good songs into great ones. When We Were on Fire goes for this nice mid-tempo roots rock feel to some great effect, as it lyrically deals with trying to bring a certain spark, so to speak, back to the relationship via some pretty good running symbolism. To me, Move Together is sort of a companion piece to Let It Go. They're definitely two of the more soft and gentle songs on this album, and here he details having these insanely late schedules with his living, obviously as a touring musician, arguing over everything, both major and minor with this person, and slowly coming to the realization that things simply aren't working out. That continues in a fantastic way on Scars, which is all about dealing with the idea of a long-distance relationship, constantly promising to make things work, but not being entirely sure whether or not that's realistically possible. Just to throw out another comparison, I've been catching up on Death Cab for Cutie lately because of their new album, and really anyone who cried their eyes out over transatlanticism is definitely going to feel something from this track. It builds an instrumentation in a beautiful way, and stands out as easily one of the more emotionally powerful moments on here. Speaking of building instrumentation and relatability for that matter, I can't talk about this album without talking about Hold Back the River, which was really the perfect song to be James's big breakout hit. I love how it builds from this quaint little ascending finger-plucked guitar riff that the vocal melody follows along with, gradually to the choral vocals that add a whole lot in the second half. It all makes for a near-perfect pop rock song to me. James has said he wrote this song about missing his loved ones while touring, but really I can see it as applicable to anyone who feels like they're not really spending as much time with the important people in their lives as they want to, whether from a busy schedule or maybe something a little more personal. Now, like I said, with Craving, there's definitely more of a rock feel on this album than we got with those first few EPs, and it's none more apparent than on, appropriately enough, two of the new songs here, Best Fake Smile and especially Collide. Here James is letting loose with these very soulful vocals, great guitar licks, and even the sort of bluesy feel on Collide that's just a ton of fun. In a sort of similar vein, Get Out While You Can has this arena rock style energy to it, which fits being the last real burst of emotion on this album before dying down a little in the last couple tracks. Going back to lyrics, at first I was a little annoyed that things weren't going in a more linear arc kind of fashion with the sequencing on this album. You know, songs about things not working out first, then the songs about trying to make it work, then the songs about accepting the breakup, you know, something like that. But then things really started clicking for me with the last song, Incomplete. In a nutshell, the general message of the song is, look, we both know there's not going to be this defined conclusion to all this. That's just not how life works. Let's just ride this out and see what happens. And to me, this really helps add to that sense of realness that I was describing earlier. So yeah, really loving James Bay's Chaos and the Calm, a title that becomes more and more appropriate the more I hear it. Every song is memorable, catchy, and emotionally investing in its own ways, and even shows a bit more versatility than I was expecting going into this. So I'm going to give it a 9. To my fellow Americans, check this out if you're looking for another reason to envy the UK charts. If you guys have heard this album, what do you think about it? Do you agree with what I say, disagree, have any feedback about the channel in general? Let me know in the comments down below. Share this around with any who might be interested, like the Facebook page in the description for updates, and hopefully I'll see you on the next episode of Spin It Reviews. Also, if you guys notice something a little different about the sound of this episode, it's because my room just happened to be hit with a power outage everywhere except for the lighting, which means no fan from the computer over there this time. So, be grateful, I guess.